later time. So I'll go ahead and start the recording. Okay, hi, I'm Ann Abbott Lewis. I'm one of the counselors at Roosevelt High School. Welcome to our presentation going over a couple of important things that ninth graders who are coming into our building next year might like to know. We'll go through a couple of introductions that might not mean a ton to you right now, but will be helpful in the future. We have two other counselors on the call with us. Sarah Berryazkin is here and also Carmen Salter. So we're all three helping students transition as they come into the high school next year. So we'll do this presentation, PowerPoint, and then at the end, there'll be a time for questions. And then we'll take turns kind of monitoring the chat as we go along. So Sarah and Carmen, just interrupt me if there's a question that comes up, and we can stop and answer as we go along as well. All right. So we have a pretty full house at Roosevelt when it comes to our counseling and our administrative staff. We have 6 counselors that work in the building. They're listed here. Miss Evers, Miss Berryazkin, who is also on this call, Miss Haylett, I'm Ann Abbott Lewis. We have Miss Stofa and Carmen Salter, who's also on the call. Next year, we will have some changes in the counseling department. Miss Evers has taken a job at a different school, so we'll have a new counselor on our team next year. We don't know who that is yet. This spring, if you have questions before the end of the school year, please maybe take a screenshot or jot down the alphabet section that your child or your student is in. That's the counselor that you can contact as we work through these last couple weeks of the school year and get ready to move into summer. So if you have questions about scheduling, moving into the high school next year, orientation that'll happen in August, just shoot us an email. We'll get back to you as quickly as we can. We also have 6 administrators that work in our building, 1 head principal, and then 5 associate principals. So our head principal is listed there, Kevin Biggs. You may have heard that he is not coming back to Roosevelt next year. So we'll have a different head principal. Again, we don't know who that is yet. And then our associate principals are Mindy Yukin, Missy Floyd, Jeff Hummel, Matt Lakis, and Frank Lee. We also know that Matt Lakis isn't coming back to Roosevelt next year. He's taken another job. So we work closely with those associate principals, usually to support an alphabet section of our students. So there'll be a counselor matched up with an associate principal to support students while they're at Roosevelt. So Des Moines Public Schools is unique, as you know, and we support students in our home high schools, but we also support them through Central Academy and through Central Campus. Central Academy is also staffed by a counselor, Chris Hilton, and Jamie Powers is Chris Hilton's support staff when it comes to scheduling and some other counseling odds and ends. At Central Campus, John Hickling and Jennifer Scott are the counselors there, and they're supported by Mary Vang. So if your student is going to attend Central Campus or Central Academy, or possibly both next year, it's possible that you will hear from and or work with these counselors next year as well. Students are mainly supported by their home high school counselor. And then we work really closely with the counselors at Academy and Campus to support students in their classes. We don't always have access at the home high school to Central Campus and Central Academy attendance and grades. So if you have questions about those things, we'll always loop in those counselors and teachers. We also have a gifted and talented consultant that works just at Roosevelt. Her name is Casey Dunley, and her email address is there. I know she works hard to contact families as they move into the high school so that she can provide the correct programming for them. So this slide kind of delineates the differences between academy and campus. I have children in the district and I work in the district and still sometimes get academy and campus confused when I'm talking about them. So Central Academy is the program that offers advanced and accelerated coursework in our core content. So they do offer some other electives outside of core content, but mostly students attend Academy for math, science, English, and social studies. World languages and throwing are offered at Central Academy. We recently found out art history will not be offered next year, so I should update this slide. But those are the academy classes students can enroll in. There is a bit of a qualifying piece for those academy classes. So if you have questions about that, please contact your 8th grade counselor, and then they can loop us in if needed. Central Campus is a program that offers coursework in career and technical education. It really is a gem of the Des Moines Public Schools. Students can get coursework in very diverse fields, like they can get coursework in electricity, in construction basics, in carpentry, and then all the way to like photography, broadcast and film. There's a beautiful culinary program there. So just like an amazing program. We're always happy to talk about it. So if you have questions about what's available to your student as they work their way through high school, we're happy to talk about that as well. Okay, any questions in the chat so far? I don't have it up. I can't find it right now.
No, I think we're good.
Oh, there is. Okay, I see one question. Students who are coming into Roosevelt that are not currently Des Moines Public School students. So if you're transferring in from Bergman or parochial school, and you have questions about Central Academy, it is a good idea to contact the counselor that was listed for your child's alphabet section on that first slide. And we can put that back up at the end. And then we'll help you figure out appropriate classes for next school year based on some information about your child. So we'll work closely with Chris Hilton, the counselor at Central, to figure out that part of the schedule so that your child's appropriately placed in core classes that are challenging and appropriately leveled. At the end of the presentation, you'll see that on Monday, May 17th, a link will be sent out to students who are not currently Des Moines Public School students. So you can select the courses that you would like to request for next year. In that course request process, you can request classes at Central Academy. So you can certainly go to the Central Academy website and look that up, look up the classes, read about what they offer, and then put them in your course requests. And then we'll work closely with you and Chris Hilton to get that schedule correct for the beginning of 9th grade. Okay, I'm going to hand it over now to Miss Salter, and she's going to talk a little bit about how 9th graders can be successful in our building.
Hello, everyone. Excited to be here and tell you all the things about what freshmen should know. So the most important thing is go to class. High school is so different from middle school. There's a lot more freedom, I want to say. It's a very big, Roosevelt's a very big school. So very, very different from high school. Um, so a lot of it depends on you going to class. Number one thing, go to class. So you cannot pass a class without going. Um, and you lose out on so much knowledge inside the classroom. And then number two is build relationships. So important to get to know your teachers, get to know your counselor, get to know your administrators, even new friends. It's very important that you reach out and that you're asking questions, especially if you're confused or you don't understand something. Those relationships will really pay off your senior year when it comes to writing letters of recommendation and so forth. So very important. The other thing is take AP and college credit classes when you can. Ask us about it. When you meet with your new counselor, ask what is this? Is it going to be hard? What does it mean? Is it going to help me? What if I fail it? Ask us any and all the questions. If you're feeling uncomfortable or unsure if you can do it, um, it it's not a bad thing to try, right? We can always look at other options, but ask us the questions about it. So grades do matter in high school, so you have to put in the work. It's not like middle school where if you don't pass a class, you still get to move on. You will have to retake that course. So if you fail English 1 for your freshman year, you will have to take it again, whether it is the following year or a different year, you will have to take it again. So very important that you are passing all of your courses. Um, Number 5, I hope we can all stay together on this, but stay out of trouble. Um, there's it's high school, right? There's a lot of things going on, and just do your best to stay out of it. There's just too much going on for students. 6, get involved. That's going to help you stay out of trouble. Actually, getting involved with choir, theater, sports, any kind of club is actually a great way to get involved and know the things, get to know new friends, and really pick up a new skill, something maybe that you could be interested in. The number 7 is a fun one, I think, for most high school students. They like to do this. Procrastinate. Do not procrastinate. Courses can move very fast. Like I said, very different from middle school. They can be very fast. There will be homework. Some teachers do daily, others don't. So it's just very important to stay on top of it and not procrastinate. Number 8, do you. That's my favorite. Be yourself when you come to high school. Don't change who you are to try to fit in with certain groups. Do you. It's going to be the best outcome for you. You're going to have the most fun in high school if you are yourself. Uh, Number 9, friends change. I think this is probably one of the hardest things for our middle school students because it is such a large school and you're going to end up dividing and not end up in the same class as your peers. And that's okay. It's okay to change friends. And we want you to know that now that it's going to happen and it's okay. Number 10 is a volunteer. So we have so many opportunities at Roosevelt for students to volunteer and be a part of things in the community or even within Roosevelt. And that's another great way to meet new friends and build those relationships to help you with freshman year and going forward. All right, so daily schedule, you can see there, they are 45-minute long classes, and there are 7 blocks. There's only 1 lunch. For those of you parents who are on here and have older students, this year is the exception because the schedule is totally different, but we do plan to go back to the 7 blocks next year. So if you have any questions on the schedule, your teachers will be pretty good about telling you what time you're going in and what time it ends and so forth. And the daily schedule is usually around in the classrooms and outside at the beginning of school. So if you have any questions on that, please reach out. There is a 5-minute passing time. So between first and second block, you'll have 5 minutes to transition from the different classes. I do suggest that if you are in PE and you have a class at no matter really where, you want to get there. You want to go from PE to that class because it's a big school. So just try to give yourself as much time as possible. All right, and now we have some frequently asked questions. There we go. Okay, so masks. At this time, they are required at all times. The only time you don't have to wear a mask is if you're eating and drinking in the cafeteria. So that's the only time that you are allowed to not have a mask. And usually you're sitting in one spot. So we're not sure what the regulation will be from the CDC next year, but we're just gonna say that that's it until you hear otherwise. IDs. So you will get a school ID and you have to have it with you at all times. So when you walk into the building through the front, you will be showing your ID. And that way we are identifying you as a Roosevelt student. And at any point in time, any Roosevelt staff can ask you to see your ID and you have to provide that and show them that ID. So lunch, ninth grade students are expected to stay on campus. This year is an exception because of COVID. Students are allowed to leave, but if you are in ninth grade, you should be eating in the Roosevelt cafeteria with everybody else. So the main entrance only is where you will come in. All the other doors are locked and alarmed, and they will go off. That's happened to me. So when we say it's alarmed, we really mean it. Don't go through any other doors than the main entrance. That way, for one, we know that you are a Roosevelt student coming into the building, and two, you're not causing us to call the fire department. So please go through the front. Release. So release is kind of like a free block that has been an exception again this year. That will not happen for you ninth graders unless there is an extenuating circumstance, which is, I mean, very, very little chance that that happens because we want you ninth graders to get as many credits as possible freshman year. So we want you to start high school off on a really strong foot and getting as many classes and credits done. Backpacks, book bags, they are allowed. You can carry it around. There are lockers. So if you want a locker, you would go to the front office to request a locker, but you can carry backpacks from class to class. And I feel like most of our students, that's what they do, is just kind of carry the backpack. Lockers are assigned to the first week of school. They are not required, so you don't have to have it. But like I said, most kids usually just carry the backpack from class to class. Transportation. So this is busing. It can be requested during registration in August. It's typically for anybody that lives further than 3 miles from here. If you don't live within the 3-mile radius, there is the DART bus that students are able to ride. A lot of our students ride it. They do get a discounted price for riding the DART bus. So if you have more questions on DART, I definitely suggest calling the main DART office for clarification and fees and things like that.
Perfect. I'm going to take it away now with some academic frequently asked questions and just some really important information that we like to tell all of our students early on. And we'll be reminding you of this all throughout high school. So don't feel like you need to write everything down and panic right now if you don't get it all down. So we do use standards referenced grading at Roosevelt, and it's typically referred to as SRG. I know there's lots of acronyms to keep straight, but SRG is one that you will hear quite often. So that's our grading system we use. And if you ever have questions about it, our counselors as well as our instructional coaches are really good about explaining that if you're not familiar with it. And moving into freshman year, I know our ninth grade teachers are really good about answering questions as well, because it can be confusing out of the gate. So we do use a 4.0 scale for GPA, and GPA is the grade point average. So from 3.0 to 4.0, that is an A. 2.5 to 2.99 is a B. 2.0 to 2.49 is a C. 1.75 to 1.99 is a D, and 1.74 or less is an F, and you don't receive credit for that. If students do take an AP class that is on a 5.0 scale, so that would be counted into your weighted GPA, versus the 4.0 scale is an unweighted GPA. Again, kind of going back to attendance, like Miss Salter and Miss Abbott-Lewis has already talked about a little, but being at school is super important. Students who miss as few as 2 days per month are less likely to graduate with their peers. I know that sounds like a really scary statistic, but it's just simply because you're not getting the content if you're not in class. I know, again, going back to it's a big school and it might sound tempting to leave campus, but by missing those classes, you are missing really important information that could impact you down the road. Especially like the next one says, every single class period. It's a student's responsibility to attend class every single day. I know maybe in middle school, people would track you down if you were in class, but that doesn't happen at high school. It's really the student's responsibility to take charge of their learning and their attendance. So if a student is chronically absent or tardies, we will step in with some additional supports, maybe have a family meeting. Loss of privileges might happen, including like participating in school-sponsored sports and events, and it could escalate even to truancy court, and we would hate for that to happen. So the bottom line is being in class is super important, and we want to see you there too. Okay, so going into graduation requirements. To graduate from Roosevelt High School, students need a grand total of 23 credits. So we're just going to kind of break it down here. A 1 semester class is 0.5 credits. So if a student takes a full year class, that's 1 full credit. So in the area of English, students need 4 credits. So that typically equates to 4 years of English, which English is our one that you need the most of. For math, students need 3 credits of math, including Algebra 1 and higher. So the typical how you typically go through your math classes is you go from Algebra 1 to Geometry, Algebra 2, and then you can take advanced math classes after that. And then for science, you also need 3 years or 3 credits of that. Science is a little different than English and math in that you have more freedom to take classes of choice. We typically recommend most of our freshmen to take biology, but for your next 2 credits, you really do have the freedom to take classes of interest. And then for social studies, you do need 3 credits, and social studies is another unique one, and DMPS has changed their requirements a bit. So you need a full year of US history, and we encourage all of our freshmen to take that as well. And then your senior year, you'll take personal economics and government. And then somewhere between sophomore year and junior year, you need to get another full credit of social studies of any of our electives that are of interest to you. We have some really cool social studies electives that are coming up, we have LGBTQ history, we have African American studies, we have a lot of really cool social studies classes that I know everyone is excited about at Roosevelt. So the next one is students need 1.5 credits of fine and applied arts. And I know some students, when they read that, they think like you only can take drawing or you only can take theater or choir. But included in fine and applied arts are classes like nutrition and food prep or woodworking. We have lots of different options for students of all different interests. And then students also need 7.5 elective credits, and that can include world language or lots of those central campus classes that Ms. Abbott-Lewis was talking about earlier. Those play into elective credits. And for PE, students need, I believe it's 1.5 now, isn't that right, Ms. Abbott-Lewis and Ms. Salter? Or is it 1.0 still?
I think it's still 1.0,
Okay.
but we can update if that's incorrect.
Okay, no problem. And then students are also required to take CPR during high school as well, and that typically happens in a PE class. But if your student happens to be like a lifeguard or something like that, and they've received CPR through the Red Cross, they can also submit that to be counted towards the graduation requirement. So just a couple of things to highlight. Students that are interested in going on to a four-year college, they are strongly encouraged to take core for all 4 years. So that would mean we encourage students to take English, math, science, and social studies all 4 years, even though the math, science, and social studies only require 3 years. It's just a great idea when you're thinking about college requirements and raising those entrance scores. Another thing to keep in mind is 2 consecutive years of a world language is another typical college admission requirement. So at Roosevelt, we offer Spanish, and then there are other world languages that are offered at Central Academy. The most important slide. Us counselors are here to help you guys, and we're super excited to get to know you as well. So you can, parents, kids, whoever's on this call, you can contact us during the school year about a wide variety of things. We're happy to discuss academic plans and what you plan to do after high school. We're here to talk about your wellness, socially, emotionally, your mental health, how you're adjusting to high school. We're happy to support in those areas. And we're also here to help you do well in school. If you're struggling and things aren't working, that's what we're here for, and we can strategize and come up with ideas with you. And again, if you have questions between now and the end of this school year, you can contact your assigned counselor via email or Teams message. And I believe, okay, so this is the survey that Ms. Abbott-Lewis was talking about earlier. So most students who are currently at a DMPS middle school have already selected courses with their middle school counselor. But if you are a student or a family on this call that's a non-DMPS school, you will be receiving the survey on Monday, May 17th via email. And if you don't receive that email, we encourage you to contact Cheryl Smith, who is our registrar at Roosevelt. Okay, what questions does everyone have? You can either put them in the chat or you can unmute.
There's a good question about the financial literacy credit. So the Department of Ed does require students to have a financial literacy component to graduate. And we've incorporated that. Des Moines Public Schools has incorporated that into the economics class that seniors have to take to graduate. So we now call it personal economics, and it's part of that senior social studies requirement. That's how we get in that financial literacy piece.
I have another question. It says, sorry. How can we see what classes our students sign up for? So that's a good question. Infinite Campus will be your go-to. And Miss Abbott-Lewis can probably tell us a little more about it since she has children in the district. And so she can see the parent side of Infinite Campus. So Miss Abbott-Lewis, do you want to tell us?
Yes. I'm also navigating back to that counselor page. And of course, I'm doing it the slowest way possible. I'm really glad this is recording so everyone can see this later. All right, there we go. So to be honest, there's no like perfect way to see those course requests. The best way to see them is to go into your Infinite Campus parent portal. And when you click on the drop-down menu, there'll be a choice that says academic plan. And if you click on that, it brings up actually what we as counselors input courses into every year when we meet with students. And so you'll look under that 9th grade column, and then it's divided up by subject. So you'll just look down that row and you'll see the courses that your student has selected for 9th grade. At the very bottom, there's also a selection for alternate courses. We ask students to choose alternates because weird things happen with our master schedule all the time. We sometimes can't offer all the courses that are in the catalog. Sometimes classes fill up, so we need an alternate. So those are listed at the very bottom. If push comes to shove and you just like cannot find in Infinite Campus what those course requests are, you can contact 8th grade counselor or email me and I can look them up for you in Infinite Campus and I can send you a list.
Perfect. So it looks like the next question that I see is, how do we apply for Central Campus classes? So we are actually in the process right now of what we call round 1. So students that we all met with when we were doing the course request meetings, they were able to fill out a survey. And Central Campus compiled all of those responses, and we are in the process of giving students seats in those classes or offering those seats to students who would like to accept. However, once we get done with round 1, all of the Central Campus offerings will be reopened via, I'm assuming, that same survey. So we will work with our 8th grade counselors maybe and be sure we send out that survey to all families again. If you have specific questions about a Central Campus class or program, I would encourage you to reach out to your student's assigned counselor.
Yes, and the next question I see is, will there be a chance for students to tour the school over the summer, and when is orientation? So there will be a chance for students to tour the school over the summer, and I believe, what date? August
4th, 5th, and 6th.
Right, August 4th, 5th, and 6th. You will have, it's like an orientation actually, which you come in, you hear all about, you know, kind of very similar to what we just talked about. You'll get a tour from high school students as well for everybody that comes in, and it's kind of the same tour orientation where you'll get more information regarding starting school later in August.
So all students are automatically signed up for that orientation. So you'll get a letter in the mail, probably the beginning of July, that tells you what date and time your child is assigned orientation. And if that date and time doesn't work for your family on the 4th, 5th, or 6th, the contact information for Lupe Thomason, who's our community and schools coordinator, will be included in that letter. So you can contact Ms. Thomason and she'll get you in at a time that works for your family. Are there more questions in the chat? I am having a hard time seeing it.
Yes.
Since I'm sharing my screen.
Yep, the other one is, if we're coming from a DMPS middle school that doesn't lead into Roosevelt and we did an in-district transfer, do we retake the survey because there are different classes at Roosevelt than the school I did the survey I filled out, Hoover? I don't believe so. We have very similar courses. And if something is off or we don't have, we'll contact you once we build schedules and things like that because something's off or we need to add a class, change a class. We go through those student by student. So all 2,000 and some students' schedules get looked at individually. So you shouldn't need to redo any of that survey. The other question is, how do Central Academy classes impact classes that are necessary? For example, in social studies at Central Academy, it skips US history if joined in high school.
So typically Central Academy, I think, is shifting a little bit too. Typically, ninth graders start with AP Human Geography as their ninth grade class at Central. In the past, that's been a typical 10th grade offering at Roosevelt. So the social studies path for most Central students is to do AP Human Geography in ninth grade, AP US History in 10th grade, so they get that required US History class. Then in 11th grade, they either take another AP Euro History, AP, they have several histories at Central that Roosevelt doesn't offer, and I don't have them like off the top of my head. And then students usually come back to Roosevelt to take government or AP government to fulfill that requirement and personal economics. Central Campus does offer, sorry, I said it wrong again. Central Academy does offer an AP macroeconomics course that fulfills that personal economics requirement, and students can choose to do that. So that's kind of the social studies pathway for Central Academy classes. I hope that answered the question. If I misunderstood, go ahead and pop a follow-up in the chat.
Okay, it looks like the next question is, if my child has a full schedule, how do they get exempt from PE? So students are required to do a PE class once every academic year they're in high school. So if your student has a full schedule, they would enroll in what we call contract PE. So it would be a PE class that takes place outside of their school day, where they document their physical activity and they have to submit that to a teacher. So they wouldn't be fully exempt from the class. It would just be they would enroll into contract PE.
Yep. And the next question, will a child who is open enrolling from another DMPS school still be able to have the classes they selected for their home school? So yeah, very similar to a few questions ago. You should still have very similar aligning classes that you chose. If something changes, we will definitely reach out if you need to pick a different class to add to your schedule. And then the question after that, are students coming from a non-DMPS school at a disadvantage for taking classes at Central because DMPS students have already done the survey?
So I would say Central Academy, no. We do a round one of requests, which is what we're finishing up right now, where they kind of get more like finalized numbers for the courses they offer, and then we'll do a round two. So non-DMPS students coming in will still have a chance to request classes at Central. And I feel like this spring we've had pretty good luck getting our students' requests fulfilled through Central Campus. I can't make promises, but it's not a disadvantage at this point in the year.
Yeah, and something to keep in mind with Central Campus that I remember from the beginning of the year is that we often get emails from their counselors saying, hey, there's an open spot at, for this program, does student X want in? So that could also be the case with Central Campus.
Okay, the next question is, what about the classes that you do have that other schools don't? Because I know that Roosevelt has show choir, gospel choir, and other classes that I want to take that aren't on my survey due to them not being offered at Hoover. I would really encourage you to connect with your counselor on that because I know auditions are required as well for some of those choirs. So we will loop you in with Dr. Dino and Mr. Steve, our choir directors. So I would encourage you for those specific questions and classes to reach out to your counselor that's listed on this slide. The next one is, I have an incoming Roosevelt 10th grader who has not taken classes in person and there was not orientation last summer. Will those students be able to have the same orientation / tour opportunities that the incoming 9th graders will have? I know this is something that we counselors have also been talking about and advocating for. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to have an orientation. We usually have an orientation for students who are new to Roosevelt if they're not a 9th grader. So it would be something similar to that for our students that are in upper grade levels. I can just keep rolling with questions, Carmen and Ann. Is weightlifting an option for PE? Yes, we do have a class called Total Body Fitness, and you do weightlifting in that class. And you can take any PE class you would like each year. And if you really like one, you can take it again. Okay, so there was a follow-up to the Central Campus question. If my child qualifies for a class at Central, but it is full, are they out of luck?
Okay, so that's probably Academy. And I would say that we would have to try again that following year. Or some, like I said, sometimes they get a hold of us and tells us that a spot opens up and things like that. So, but I think with Academy is there's a little more option, I would say, than campus, wouldn't you all, as far as getting students in?
Well, with Central Academy, we try really hard to honor, we are bound by what Central Academy counselors and administrators will, how they'll staff their building and how they'll allow student numbers to add up in their classes. We work really hard to make sure students who need that opportunity get that opportunity. When it comes to Central Campus, classes do fill up, and if students can't get into their first choice, we encourage them to find a class that's similar or related that is open, and then we reapply for their first choice the following year. That unfortunately is just a little bit how it works with Central Campus because they're trying to honor the requests of 5 city high schools. So sometimes Central Campus can be disappointing for students if they don't get their first choice right away.
Yes, and I think another important thing to remember about AP, because Central Academy has some AP, right? A lot of AP courses, but we at Roosevelt do too. So we do offer AP courses at Roosevelt. And if, AP US history or human geography is full at Central Academy, we do have those classes, hopefully, at Roosevelt. We did this past year. So there's still room, or just you won't go to Central, you'll take that AP course at Roosevelt. So we don't want anybody to feel like there's not an option other than that on some of the courses, because there are other options on some courses.
I think that was all the questions in the chat, unless there are other questions from everyone on the call. Give it a couple minutes in case people still have questions. Okay, well, if you don't have any more questions, we really appreciate all of you being here. And again, like we've said a few times, your counselors are here as resources for all of you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us at any time if you think of anything. And we'll probably hang out on the call for a little bit longer if someone has another question that they want to talk to just us about. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
I'm going to stop recording.
Okay, perfect.